James Talarico, the man who won Texas Senate Democratic primary after defeating Jasmine rage-baiting Crockett in debate.
These maps, racist. The fact that they are trying to silence black and minority voters in a majority minority state, racist. Pulling all of the economic engines out of certain districts, also racist. This is a Republican-led and racist.
Talarico is the new golden boy for the Democratic Party, charismatic, humble, kind, winning the hearts and minds of many people.
Right.
So I'm
That's
not on.
because you need to run for president.
Yeah.
We need someone who's actually a good person.
What has really gotten him traction and attention is his two talking points of his faith and the rise of Christian nationalism.
My granddad was a Baptist preacher. I've been a member of this church since I was 2 years old. And now I'm in seminary studying to become a minister myself. My faith means more to me than anything.
Even myself, growing up around the church and the Protestant Christian faith, I found it interesting him being a Democrat, a Christian, and in the politics realm. So that's an interesting mix for obvious reasons. Now, after some digging, I come to find out he's actually a Presbyterian.
And one of the things that's gotten you attention out there is that you are a Presbyterian seminarian. Presently?
Yes.
You're a seminarian?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't know what a Presbyterian was at the time, but after some quick Google searches, I'll tell you what I found and we'll read it together. In summary, in essence, a Presbyterian seminarian is a dedicated student preparing for ordained ministry of church leadership, grounded in the Reformed tradition, committed to theological study, spiritual formation, and practical ministry. The seminary experience equips them to serve congregations, communities, and the broader church with knowledge, faith, and leadership skills. Basically a buffed up Christian with degrees and street cred. But this is where it gets interesting. The Presbyterian faith isn't the traditional mainstream Christian Protestant, but in fact, it comes in different forms. And shout out to the channel Ready to Harvest, as this has given me more insight into what category Talarico falls into based on what comes out of his mouth.
Our southern border should be like our front porch. There should be a giant welcome mat out front.
There are many more than two biological sexes. In fact, there are 6.
God is both masculine and feminine and everything in between. God is non-binary.
Before we go further, I want to acknowledge that our trans community needs abortion care too. Defending trans Texans is something we have to do every day at the state capitol. And you better believe I'll be giving sermons on that too. The Bible doesn't mention abortion or gay marriage, but it goes on and on about forgiving debt, liberating the poor, and healing the sick. Christian nationalists like to say this is a Christian nation. Not only is that historically inaccurate, not only is that theologically blasphemous, but it's also just not true.
Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, literally the first chapter in the Bible. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. So God is binary. He is not non-binary, as Talarico proclaimed to the world. And this is also the introduction of the male and female sexuality. Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. This is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. This is literally like the template of the man and woman marriage, and is consistently reiterated throughout the whole Bible. Leviticus 18:22. Do not have sexual relations with a man as one does with a woman. That is detestable. It's interesting. The verse before 22:21. Do not give any of your children to be sacrificed to Molech, for you must not profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. And that's interesting because many Christians, at least those deep into it, have believed that Molech is the deity of child sacrifice and is living and breathing in today's modern day. There are some hardcore Christians who think abortion is a way to sacrifice children to the deity of Molech. I've heard that before, and I wouldn't go that far, but it is a kind of interesting point of discussion. And Jeffrey Epstein and the files that have coming out, that's an interesting point as well, because I believe there's child sacrifice embedded in those files, and I believe there was mentions of, I'm not sure if it was Molech or a different type of deity where you sacrifice children to. So that's an interesting tidbit that I just wanted to discuss. But I didn't expect to get this deep. Another point for another video, another discussion for another time. I believe I found a verse that can give some credence to abortion being a not so ideal thing. I'll start with Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 4. And God has spoken to Jeremiah. The word of the Lord came to me saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. And there's potential anytime there's a sign of life inside of a woman's womb. If we let that potential develop into a baby who develops into a full-blown adult eventually, that baby that formed could be an impactful member of society. It could help people. It can be a good force for good. It can change people's lives. You never know. It could be a game changer. Even if that person who came out from the mother comes out as a terrible person, comes out as an evil person, it could still be a lesson taught for the rest of humanity. And I believe every life should be cherished. It's a sensitive topic, abortion, because there are many factors as far as like rape and, incest. And I get it. As a person who believes in the Bible and in God, not necessarily a devout Christian, but have many Christian values, that's something that I don't want, abortion, but I get it. And it's a sensitive topic that if people want to abort because of rape, because of incest, and that's a very small minority. And let's be real, most of the time women go to the abortion clinic, it's not because of rape, it's not because of incest, it's because they're acting like a hoe. It's because they want to spread the legs to the wrong guy that they don't want to end up having a baby with, that they make dumb decisions, not want to hold themselves accountable, not want to have any consequences for being promiscuous with the wrong type of guy, that they go to the abortion clinic and to solve their problem. And that's just like a rinse and repeat type of problem where I believe we're killing babies, we're promoting promiscuity for women to do anything that they want without any consequences, and it's not helping society. If it's me personally, keep the clinics for those situations of rape or incest or any of those egregious acts that is understandable, debatable, and between the man and the woman and the state and the clinic and the parents, if they're involved, that they make those decisions of aborting baby if it involves any of those egregious things. And at the end of the day, it's between the woman, the family, and God. So having all these women go to the abortion clinic just to not have any consequences because of their promiscuity, that should be a consequence that I believe should be held accounted for. And I get it as well. Medical reasons for having to abort the baby, mother's life, baby's life, I understand that as well. Very small minority, and that's between the mother, the father, the family, the doctor, and that's between them and God. So, and with that, you can tell I am more pro-life, but I understand some situations it's her body, her choice, but that's a very small minority, very small situations, and I get it. Sensitive topic. I'm gonna get a lot of hate. Sorry, not sorry. I'm just expressing what I think, and it's within my right. So that is my opinion on that.
There is a cancer on our religion. Until we confess the sin that is Christian nationalism and exorcise it from our churches, there is nothing Christian about Christian nationalism.
I didn't know what Christian nationalism was, so I had to do some research to see what it was truly about. And of course, at the head, it is Donald Trump, MAGA, and others.
Christian, and I say it proudly, we should be Christian nationalists.
The church is supposed to direct the government. The government is not supposed to direct the church.
Do you choose to go with the death and the darkness, or do you choose to go with the life and the light of God? I believe that President Trump is fighting for that, yes.
And my dumbass had to write this down to truly understand. A movement to establish a radical Christian theocracy, who many consider the movement cloaks itself with Christianity for the goal of government power, and by any means. Now, do I think Christian nationalism is the greatest threat to have ever happened in America? The cancer that's permeating the land, sweeping the nation into an uproar and becoming a super problem that we should all face and deal with and exterminate it? I don't think so per se. Bear with me, I'm thinking in real time, so this is going to be a chopped up segment. But I don't think it's necessarily that. I don't think Christian nationalism is the greatest threat. I don't think here as a nation we should be a theocracy. I don't think we should be a dominant, solely powered Christian nation that no one can ever, question our authority and everyone should obey our laws and commands and the Bible and Jesus. That's not a way of life that should be implemented, because we've seen how theocracies can unfold currently in this point of time. And we know what politics is. It's literally people and nations and in that government position vying for power or trying to get power or having power. And we know what power does. It corrupts everyone eventually, and that includes Donald Trump. I don't think he's a saint. I don't even believe he thinks himself to be a devout Christian and totally believing in Jesus and God. I'm pretty sure he's mentioned that he thinks he won't be going to heaven.
I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven. Okay, I think I'm not maybe heaven bound.
Yes, you see him pray here and there. I think some of that's theatrics, political, and maybe a part of him does believe in that. I don't know his heart. We don't know. Point is, I don't think Christianity is necessarily a bad thing. We've seen in the last clip what happens when people take it too far. There's always going to be radicals and extremists in every ideology, religion, and what have you. But I think as a whole, Christians, we're not that extreme. And I'm not saying that most people say that, but many people are shown that side or just ignore how real Christians live day in and day out. And I don't think having a Christian at the helm, creating a theocracy for everyone to follow, is the right way, because we shouldn't force Christianity onto people. That's literally a value, a way of life of a Christian not to do. And while there are many cases of people growing up where their parents have forced religion down their throats, we know that's definitely a thing. Literally not the right way to do things, and shame on anyone who does that, whether in the political realm, using Christianity or any religion, or parents who are Christians or Catholics or any religion to shove it down their families' throats. That's never a right way to do things. People should be willing to come to God, should be willing to accept Jesus as the Lord and Savior. And as a person who has done that in the past, and again, I'm not a devout Christian, I'm just telling you what I think, and from my life experience and my values that have embedded within me, this is what I think a nation should include. Christianity should be the dominant religion in America, for sure, because many of the values of a Christian align with that of America. Whether people like it or not, it is what it is. We are the dominant religion here in America, and I think that's how it should be, because you go to many other countries, there's many dominant religions that work for that country, that people are happy with that dominant religion. And I get it. Here in America, we're a melting pot, but things aren't melting, you feel me? And by nature, there has to be a dominant religion. And it's cute for Talarico to think that we can all live kumbaya and love thy neighbor for all their faults and whatnot, but that's not reality. That's not the real world we live in. Again, cute message. It makes you feel warm and fuzzy, but specifically when it comes to religion, there's always going to be one power struggle from religion wanting to be the most dominant, because that's what religion does. They spread the word, they spread their religion to others, and they display it unashamedly. And we've seen that with Christianity, Islam, Catholic, what have you. It doesn't matter. And sometimes religions aren't that compatible. As far as radical Islam or hardcore Christians, what they believe in, it's not that different, but at the same time, it's not compatible, because the way of going about it conflicts with one another. There's a way of life of living when it comes to Islam or Christianity, and we've seen it how it bleeds into politics, where the LGBTQ trans community doesn't mesh well with Christianity. We've seen it happen all the time. We've seen it happen, if anything, on a daily basis. And while Christian nationalists are on the rise, there is the wave that is Islam and many Muslims fluctuating in here in America, spreading into many parts of the country, where they will become more outspoken against LGBTQ communities, trans communities, or many of these democratic policies and, I guess, values that Democrats have. Well, it will eventually conflict all the time. And there's a culture war that includes religion and it bleeds into politics. So that's why there needs to be a dominant religion, specifically when it comes to this topic. This is where assimilation happens. We can't be so tribalistic with our own cultures where there's no grand feature, a tradition, a value that is America, a tether that brings us together, something that glues us together where we can align ourselves towards a common goal, not necessarily for like physical things, but like almost spiritual, a way of thinking, a way of life. And I think Christianity is the way to go, is the answer to that. But I don't think Christian nationalist is the right way to go about it. And Christian nationalism needs to be checked. It needs to be looked at with a close eye for sure, because if you let anything fester, it can grow and become a problem, just like with anything in life. But I don't think January 6th is the greatest threat to our democracy here in America, where it was the most devastating occurrence that has caused so much destruction and violence, and it's the worst thing to ever happen here in America, because I don't think that is not the case. I think it's hyped up by many woke, left-leaning, democratic people who are just opposed against Trump, opposed against MAGA, opposed against Christian nationalism, opposed against right-wing thinking, opposed to anyone who isn't aligning with them. And that has been shown time and time again throughout the last years, throughout the last decades. And for any of you quick to judge, thinking I'm being transphobic, homophobic, or a hater to those communities, I'm not. I'm simply making a point that the wokeness, the woke virus was a real thing 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, hell, just right before Trump's second term. And it was hard for people like myself to speak out against it or be critical about it without getting canceled. That was a real thing. And I believe that also ushered in that culture of wokeness, ushered in identity politics, systemic racism, BS, the critical race theory, the DEI, all those things like clumped in together with that community where it was like, we're being oppressed, we're victims, and we're trying to show the authority that be, whether it be Trump or anyone who didn't align with them, included in the America the wokeness was trying to usher in. And that was a real thing. Many people felt that way. And to a point which I believe when Trump got elected the second time, that was when the, I guess, Christian nationalism finally kind of exploded, and they were unashamed about it. And you've seen it where it was taken to another level. And so that Christian nationalism was a symptom of the wokeness, the woke virus that was all over the place. And there was no denying that. And again, it's just my opinion. And from living through it and seeing these steps progress. And yes, there's some bias, me being a more conservative, middle kind of person with, the history of being a Christian. But at the same time, I try to be fair and objective to many of these facts. And I believe it is a fact that the Christian nationalism is a symptom of the wokeness. Much like how Nick Fuentes is a symptom of the identity politics and Andrew Tate is more of a symptom of feminism. And I must reinforce the fact that I have plenty of family and friends who are homosexual or bi, and I don't see them anything less. I don't see them anything more. I have a YouTuber who I watch all the time, Amir Odom, who has been known to be a homosexual and a Republican, and I love his content. He's very funny, he's very insightful, and has plenty of useful information when it comes to wokeness, when it comes to the fringes that is the woke radical culture, because he has studied it, he has been around it, and he's not a part of it, but he knows what he's talking about, and I watch him all the time. Dave Rubin, a well-known political commentator. Again, my political views align with many of these people, but I don't see them as being homosexual in that manner. And Douglas Murray, he's another one. I have his book in the back shelf right here. A well-known homosexual who's super intelligent and super insightful. None of these people are perfect by any means, but it's just, I love what they have to say, and that's what's most important. I love their ideas. I love their mind. And even Tim Dillon, he is another one who's a well-known comedian, homosexual, and he's hilarious. I watch his clips from time to time, and again, I have nothing against homosexual people. It's just with my background, my faith, like, I pray for them. I hope they convert, and I hope a church will accept them. Any real church does accept gay people. They just want to see them convert to being naturally heterosexual, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting gay people to be heterosexual. If those people are willing to come to Jesus, willing to come to church, wanting to be reformed, transformed by the hand of God to be heterosexual, there's nothing wrong with that. And I end with this, for James Talarico to say, love thy neighbor for any faults that they have, and as a Christian, as he proclaims himself to be, not pray for them and not tell them that they can be saved, they can be transformed. That's a disgrace to the Christian faith, I believe. And he twists the Bible versus the words of Jesus, the words of God, in ways that align to his political gain. And that's something that he speaks out against, but he's doing it in return, whether he realizes it or not, whether his coalition realizes it or not. And that is a shame, because for me, it's pretty obvious. I think he's just another politician, much like Abigail Spanberger, who is a wolf in sheep's clothing. And with Talarico, he is exactly that, but also uses the religion twist to it, which is even more, in my opinion, even more egregious. And I don't tolerate that, which is why I made this video, call him out and to tell other people what I think about it, because for me, it's pretty obvious. Position himself for a radical left-leaning woke fan base, which doesn't do anyone in America any good, much like what he preaches about the Christian nationalists, which is highly right-wing extremist group, which again, I believe doesn't do anyone good as well. So you can't say one group or one movement is good compared to the other, which both has been causing mayhem and chaos. So other than that, Texas, stay strong, stay red, stay not too radical. Please like and subscribe, and until then, bye-bye.
Comes over Mary, and we have the incarnation. God asks for Mary's consent, which is remarkable.